Hello, it's Wendy. Thanks for coming and listening or watching. Just a heads up, if you don't feel like listening to me but want to watch me paint, you are always welcome to turn off the mute button, turn on the mute button, and put on some music and just watch me paint. I will ramble on, and who knows what I'm going to say, but this is part 3 of a series I'm working on, the Dream series, which was inspired by a dream that I had when my husband first got his cancer diagnosis. And it was a dream about us when we were first together. And so it just sort of showed me our roots, the whole thing. But this is the last one in this series, and it's called Swayed into a Dream. And it's after, we get home after one of our long walks through town. And it's just us. But in this one, it's kind of a journey. It's even in the title, and the fact that it was a dream, and the fact that I'm painting it now. I found this one particularly difficult. I don't know, just the emotional state I am, or if it's the fact that I was actually working on this as the last painting to this first series that I worked on, which I am proud that I have finished, right? I plan on continuing on. I have other paintings, things I want to do with my husband and my life, and just things, but this, I started in the middle of July, and I finished these 8 paintings, and I can't say I made myself paint every day, and I've done other things that I've filled in. I've had some commissions and some other stuff I had to do or wanted to do, so this isn't the only thing that I've done, but I made myself work on this every day for, I said at least 5 minutes, but 15 minutes was the shortest I ever did. And usually it was bare minimum was half hour, and sometimes it was hours. In fact, this one was an hour and a half, but 2 things. I forgot to push record in the beginning, so I was probably painting for a good half hour before I turned this on. And then when I pushed on record, it turned off at the end, which I probably painted for another half hour after that. So this was not an hour and a half session. It was probably more like a 2.5 hour session. And my memory in my phone is low. I need to work on that. But that's part of this. I'm not waiting till I have the perfect equipment or till I figure out everything. I'm just moving forward, and I'm trying to get content done. Because if you wait until the perfect situation, nothing will ever happen. And you would think that I would have learned that lesson a long time ago. I used to say that all the time when my husband and we had 4 daughters in 4.5 years. And we used to say, can't wait till it's perfect or it'll never happen. And I'm so glad we had that attitude with our daughters, because I love every one of them. And I feel blessed that we have them. And just everything that comes with that. And they definitely helped me through this time after he passed, and last Easter. And it's just, we try to be there for each other, but they definitely helped me out. And so I am happy about this one. But in this one, as it sort of develops, I'll talk a little bit more at the end about some of it, because I'd rather it sort of develop. This is an hour and a half talk, and I'd rather it sort of develop in the end. So we'll sort of, go from there. I have been thinking, in this series, I've just totally just whatever talking. And sometimes, yes, I have cried, okay? And if it's very exposing, but most of the time I try to be composed in life, and it's strange, oddly enough, that sitting there talking on these videos where, no one's sitting there right in front of you is oddly freeing to sit there and say things. I mean, it's only so freeing. You're being recorded. It's getting out there. So, it is what it is. But there is a sense of, who gives a fuck. And excuse my language. I try to, I don't know. Anyway. But I'm just trying to let it go and trying to be myself and whatever that is. Because I'm trying to figure out where I'm going from here. You have this thing in your life, people in your life, and I don't know about you, but I constantly make plans in my head, like what I'm going to do. Oh, when this happens, I'll do this, or this, and it's just not always able to do that. But it's also hard to sort of push yourself forward when everything seems overwhelming. And so that's what part of this is, getting these paintings out there, doing things, accomplishing things art-wise that I've wanted to do for a long time. And just going, okay, well, I'm doing them. I'm making them happen. And by putting them on here, it sort of keeps me accountable. It makes me do that. I feel like, I stated what I want to do and I get it out there, and it just sort of forces me to make it happen. It just, my own demons. It sort of works for me. And I kind of, although it was very, very emotional, like before me even talking on here just a second ago, I was just like very overwhelmed. And I hadn't done Tai Chi today, and I actually, I was up past 3, maybe closer to 4, and I finally went to bed, but I was back up at 6:30 and fed the animals and stuff like that, because they're used to getting fed then, and it's just how I work. And it's not their fault that, I'm up all night. And I didn't have to watch the grandbabies or anything today, but I did originally have plans to do things, and I'm still gonna do them, but I ended up, I was up for a few hours this morning, and then I took a nap, and then I was trying to get some other stuff done, and I wanted to do this because the house was empty and quiet, and I was like, well, okay, well, it's an hour and a half, this is a good time for me to work on it. But I was feeling overwhelmed, and like I just trying to gather myself because I was having trouble. And like I said, I hadn't done Tai Chi today, so I got myself up and I made myself do it. And it's a funny thing, the Tai Chi, because I do force myself to do it, I'd say, 98% of the time, okay? 98 to 99, depends. I'm on a 98 streak right now, 98% of the time. But usually I do it almost every single morning, really. It's something I get myself to do. But I've been struggling with it a little bit here and there for various reasons, and but I make myself do it. And so most of the time, because I'm making myself do it, I'm not getting to that Zen place that, where I just feel like you're just like really in there, and it sort of allows you to sort of line yourself for the day, and you're just sort of drinking in the world. And what I find is, it's funny, I always think, well, I have an easier time doing that when I'm out in nature, right? And it's true, I do. I have to say, the majority of the time, if I look back and I think about the times when I've done Tai Chi, and I really felt like just like in that spot, you're just like in that Zen spot, that it's when I've been outside in nature, okay? And I live in Florida, so, and funny enough, some of the times that I do it, It's when it's really hot outside and sunny. Okay, there's just something about it. And I do it with my eyes shut a lot of times, but I always have my dogs around me, so if some crazy person decided to come in my yard, which is a tiny bit scary because it looks like a jungle on a normal day, so it looks extra jungly right now because it is out of control. And then every once in a while, you'll see this 145-pound dog pop up with her counterparts that are not tiny either. And so I doubt they're going to come in, but my dogs hang around me when I do Tai Chi anyway and keep me company. Occasionally try to brush against me to test my sense of balance, which, they haven't toppled me yet. Let's not hope that they do. One wrong fall. But I do this Tai Chi, and like I said, usually if I'm going to find that really zen place, it's going to be when I'm outside. But it's not always. A lot of times it's your mindset. And I was just in this place right before I started talking here. I was just feeling very overwhelmed. I was just feeling sad, and, because this picture particularly just hit me in a way, and that I didn't expect. And it was sort of because it was a completion of something. I am doing them in these little small groups because I want to I want to have these small goals so that I can go, okay, check that off. I've done that. If I have, of course, I have ultimate bigger goals, but if I have these, they're like stepping stones to accomplishing a bigger goal. And to me, it helps me having those, right? And it helps me keep my thoughts organized, right? But I used to get these headaches, like migraines, a lot. And I don't get them as much now. And I used to get a couple different kinds. And one of them was sort of this letdown migraine that if I had been working towards something, like let's say I was working on a project and I was working on it. And it could be anything. Like it could have been getting ready for my daughter's wedding. It could be I had putting together this Girl Scout art gala, you know what I mean? Just something that I'm working on for a long time, and I'm working on a lot of adrenaline, and I'm burning the candle at both ends, and you're just hyper focused and getting in there and getting it done. And then it's all over, it's happened, it's done, and the next day I'd be completely flat out with a migraine, throwing up. I couldn't take the light, and just completely took me over. And so those always sucked. Thank goodness as I got older, took me a long time, I've started to sort of keep track of my migraines, which I should have done when I was younger, and I've started to realize things that cause them. And a lot of times you can stop things ahead of time. And so I just sort of work on that, and I don't get them as bad now. Every once in a while on a blue moon, but I've done a pretty good job at keeping them at bay. There could be other factors in, of course, that I'm unaware. I can't say that I'm a huge fan of going to the doctors. Every time I've gone to the doctors, I've ended up with things that, not every time, but I've had some bad experiences, and it's unfortunate. I've had good experiences too. I've had some doctors that I just feel, were amazing, but it's a strange thing. The whole, my perspective on it, but that's I think a discussion for another day. my view on doctors. Uh, but like I said, we've been blessed. I think my husband on his treatment, he said it had some amazing people and they cared for him and worked to help keep him here and take care of him. And I definitely feel blessed to have had those people. And so I don't, it's just, it is what it is. But my husband and I, maybe if we didn't distrust doctors so much, he would have gone to the doctor a lot sooner. But I don't know. We're both pretty stubborn people, unfortunately. And he, he had a diagnosis with his heart. It would be 17 years this August 28th, actually. He went to the hospital. And his heart was like real, compromised. It just was not pumping the way it should. It was just, and they basically said, hey, you got to quit drinking and smoking. And even if that happens, you basically, maybe you're going to last a year. And if you quit, maybe you'll last 2. And he quit on that day, and he outlasted what they even expected, because they thought even if he quit, it wouldn't have recovered. And 2 years after, or I guess it was like a year after, when he was first given that, and he had quit. Sorry. He went to the doctor, and the doctor wanted to give him a pacemaker. And he said to the doctor, he goes, "Fuck no, it's not happening." And he came home, and he dealt with, just all kinds of stuff, and he wasn't going to do it. And he ended up starting driving a cab because he could sit around and do stuff and get out there. And when he did that, in the middle of the night, he was would go on the treadmill at Planet Fitness and bring the scanner in. So if he had a call for a ride, if he need to pick someone up, he could leave the treadmill and go get them. And he just did this slowly, and eventually, actually, it worked into where we both started going to the gym together every day. And it was really good for both of us. And I would like to get back into the gym, or just getting back into, just self-care. So, but at the time, it was a really good time for him and I. Just sort of, he had healed himself. It was amazing. And we got, until the cancer came, which was 3 years ago, we got, almost 14 years there for when they gave him, a year to 2. And he made it then. And then when he got the diagnosis 3 years ago, it was dire. Like, even his doctor said he could have gone, said he was going to do hospice then. And he said nope. And he fought. He fought a good fight. And he did good. He was inspirational. He truly was. And I know it was when you go through that with someone, it just brings you to a different level of closeness, because they need to be able to rely on you, and you need to be able to be there for them. And it's just, I don't know, it's a responsibility. And it's just something that you can't replace, what you get from that. My dad sort of went through the same thing, taking care of my mom, um, because she had a health thing. You know, I can't remember exactly the year it was, but probably it wasn't that far different than when Vince's was. And they went to Africa, and she got this thing called Shigella, and she got really sick, and to the point where people didn't want to go in the room. The nurses and stuff, they were just, it was, you know. But anyway, uh, and she recovered from that, but then she just her body sort of, then it was shingles, then it was when just on and on, and she had rheumatoid arthritis and you name it. She just was suffered with mobility and stuff like that, and then the end she was in the beginning stages of dementia, and my dad was right there. You know, he had her back and just took care of her and loved her, and both of us lost these people this spring, you know, and it was I don't know, and I wasn't like I even though my mom was 86, I just felt like she had a lot more years to go. I thought that she would live into her 90s. I just thought that's what she would do. Because there was a lot of longevity in the women on her side. And I just felt like I had time. And I felt like Vince's time was running out. It just seemed like like there were like less sand grains in the hourglass for him. And I just... There's just never enough time. And even though I tell myself I should still fight, I don't know. It's not that I feel time is endless. It's just that I know it's not. But there's it's just everything that you feel like you need to do, it just feels very overwhelming. And just like this insurmountable mountain before me. But I can't look at the top of the mountain. I have to just look at the steps in front of me and move forward. And that's what I'm trying to do. And, some days are better than others. And, you just have to, I don't know. I have to figure out how to navigate through this world where it's... I don't know. I just lost that, key people in my life that I could say, hey, which way would you go? But Vince was funny because he knew how hard it was for me to make decisions sometimes. And he started doing things to force me to do that. To go and figure it out and make the decision on stuff like buying a new refrigerator. Or normally I would just send him to deal with it because I would not want to deal with it. And he would do that for me. He was fine with that, but he knew I would have to do it. We needed a new fridge, and he was sick, and he wasn't going to be hauling it in the house. So, he was, I had to go and do it. And I know it sounds stupid, it's buying a refrigerator, but it was just little stuff like that. And I'm grateful for it. Even how, he asked me to paint him. It's given me a focus. It's given me... Because not only am I doing it for me, ultimately, right? I'm also doing something for him that he wanted. That fulfilling something that he asked me to do. And so when I'm painting him, and I'm doing these pictures, I feel like I don't know, it's my gift to him. And showing, my own way of communicating with him is through paint. And I think that he would like them. I think he'd enjoy seeing these paintings. And so it makes me happy to do them. And the cats like watching me do them, or they like to cause trouble anyway. They like hanging out with me, and I like them hanging out with me. They encourage me to paint. They go, get out there and start painting. So I'm sometimes when you paint, even though you have a vision in your head, it's its own gift when you come to a finish and you look at it, because I can't explain, because you're creating it as it's happening, even though you might have seen it. The work is its own reward. And so seeing this and see how they come out, and what develops from it, I'm enjoying that a lot. And I know that the more you do anything, the better you get at it, and I'm always striving to do better. So by forcing myself to do this and working on these, it will only make me better at my craft. So that in itself is more than worth it. And they can be fun to do, even though, I have my moments where I get overwhelmed. Most of the time I'm, have a pretty good head on my shoulder, even when things are occasionally overwhelming. I usually can recover, gather myself, and move on forward, because that's the important thing. It's not whether or not we're almost feel paralyzed by grief, or it's whether or not we can push past that, despite the fact that we're feeling that we have to move forward, and you want to do things that you're proud of, and that you think that your loved ones would be proud of. Um, but ultimately, you have to do it for you, because you have your back. You're there. You're there for yourself. You have to be there for yourself, and you have to take care of yourself, and you have to. Everything else is the better you are to yourself, the better you are for the people around you, and that's important. So it's a matter of just sort of kind of figuring that out. Um, when you're hyper fixed on doing stuff like caring for someone, it can be hard to try to transfer that energy and redirect it, especially when everything starts staring at you. But I want to accept that challenge and move forward and try to do better and try to accomplish things that I want to accomplish. But I'm not sure about the talking and painting. I don't know how long. I just feel like I've thought about other ideas of doing other things where I can do stuff while I'm painting. I'm not, sort of playing with those ideas, but I'll see. I'm not sure. It's sort of a double-edged sword. The exposing of yourself, and also I've fixated on that, and I don't know, seeing the evolution, I guess, is ultimately the positive in that. Sort of figuring out how everything will evolve. The potato is just begging for attention here. She's driving me a little nuts. She's just wants me to pet her. And she will accept no other option but me to pet her. And as soon as I start painting, she's like, no. It's time to pet me. But I'm excited. I'm excited about all these paintings I have in my head, and I'm excited about bringing them out and bringing them together and just forming this visual reference to our lives together. And like I said, I don't know how far or what I'm going to do or what. I'm just one thing at a time. So, like I said, these pictures, these first 8 ones, were glimpses from this dream I had when my husband first got his cancer diagnosis. And they were just sort of an amalgam of all of our walks that we used to take in the evening when we were first dating. Because we would just go and we'd walk and we'd stop and we'd talk and we'd just various things going around doing things. And in the dream, it was very much like just the world was almost like fuzzy, like almost like a painting, a surreal or impressionistic painting, I guess, more like, because it was just sort of fuzzy and sort of out of focus and it was there, but it was us that I was focused on. And then the first one that I did, where we're running on the pier, if you go back in the first painting of the series, there's another image in there too, and I didn't do that for this series, but we're at the end of the pier. We're just sort of standing there. But really, in the dream, the one I remember is us running. It was the one vivid because it felt like it was more like the other image was more like what I felt like was happening at the end of the pier. And to me, it felt like that was the transition, like going, like him leaving. And that was the first picture that I did of on a plate that I just painted on a, you know, on a plate, and one of those places where you can paint and they'll fire it for you. And I did this sort of loose image and of this plate, and it I don't know so much that image was even in the dream, right? Because I really only remembered the part with the running, but something about that, and I had that there, and it was all those sort of lanterns turn into sort of these orbs of light. And it sort of showed me, like I said, where our roots started, and what our foundation was. And I was talking to my daughter earlier about that. I was saying how, like, the roots to a tree are where, it holds its strength, where it holds onto the ground and gets its nourishment, and it grows, and it, but really the strength comes from all the years that it lives. Every layer, every hardship it goes through, every storm, the sunshine, every wind, all those things make the tree stronger. And it's the same with love. Like when you first meet someone, that initial ignition of love is just the beginning. It's like planting the seed. And the difference is sometimes when you go there, when you meet someone, you might have the stuff and ready to plant for a beautiful life, but it's not the right place, and it won't grow into love, like true strong love. But if you, as time goes on and you get over things and you work together and you become better people together and you do different things, that's where strength and love come from. It's all those actions and that evolution that you travel together, and that's where you find real strength and power to persevere and move forward. That makes me think of a children's book that Vince and I used to talk about, that I would like to write, and I know he would like for me to do it. It was about an old Kenworth truck, and anyway, he loved Kenworth trucks. So another project, but it's often happened, and I know it has with me, that sometimes the greatest art comes out of the greatest, I don't want to say sadness, but in some ways, I mean, I think the reason I don't want to say sadness is because it has this negative connotation to it. But I don't know that sadness always has to be negative. It's just feeling it's just, it's hard for me to explain, and that's why I do it in pictures. Because I like I said, I don't like to say sadness, but there is no other term truly for it. but it's can be all consuming if you let it. You have to pull yourself out so that you don't let yourself get overwhelmed. It's easy to do, but I want to bring the positive out as much as I can, and I'm hoping that these pictures are part of that. I do want to throw out there again that you don't have to listen to me ramble on, which I'm sure you're quite aware. But if you are, I am not offended if you turn it off and want to listen to music and want to just watch the painting process. I do, and I say this in all the videos too, once I have all the videos done, I will shorten them up to a short version, and I will make it so that you can watch the whole thing on a little faster speed. And I do that in 2 phases, because I do it where it's slightly longer, not as short as a short, just so that you can see a little bit more details of what happened. But pretty close. It's still really cut down a lot so that you can just sort of see the whole process from beginning to end, and you don't have to listen to me ramble on. I just put some whatever on background for a little bit, and then do the short, which is usually a minute and 30 seconds, it depends, and see where that goes, from there. And so there's always those options. If you want to see the sort of process, but you don't feel like watching all this, which I know that they're long, feel free to wait till those other parts are done. But my husband and I used to like watching a lot of videos where people were doing things. So we're not beyond watching things that are a little drier, not in your face, full of excitement. Where you're seeing things and you're learning things. And he was not, we watch things like Twin Stick Garage on YouTube, where he was rebuilding Smokey and the Bandit truck, and we'd watch that, but then we'd also watch like Bernadette Banner, who does like historic clothing. We were all over the place. We'd watch stuff about history, we'd watch how to make things, we watched more like welding and engines, but then we could watch about farming or practical things, or just we were all over the place. We liked watching things where you learn stuff, and some people would have considered it dry, but we enjoyed it. We liked watching that stuff and putting our 2 cents in and learning things, and it was fun for us. We had a good time. Now some of that stuff right now, it's I find it hard to watch some of that stuff without him around. Even stuff that would have been like more my side, but the stuff that is when you're with someone and you're doing that and you're watching stuff, you expand your view and knowledge, because you're doing stuff with them, and it's a good thing. But we loved, watching a lot of, dry TV. Even before YouTube, Vince and I were the type of people that would watch PBS shows that were, dry and informative, and because, that's how we were. And I was that way before I met him, and I'm sure I'll continue on that way. But it was nice to have someone to share the ride there for 28 years that got where I was coming from and enjoyed similar things, and someone that sort of got me, sometimes better than I got me. I'll say to the end, he didn't stop surprising me by how well he knew me. And that's nice when you know someone loves you enough to pay attention, and they get you. Because we live in a big world, and it can be lonely sometimes, and this is from someone who I like being alone. Right. I definitely am the type of person that really enjoys my alone time, and just, definitely recharges me, and I have to, sometimes push myself out of my box and get out there, which is important too. But because when you're someone who does really enjoy being alone, it's very easy to sort of get stuck in staying there and being there. And it gets easy to go, no, I'll just stay here. It's good. But I think it's important. You need to get out there, or I need to get out there and do things. And most of the time when I go places and do things right now, quite frankly, I have to say I'm pretty much making myself do it. If I had my most of the time, I would just rather stay home. But I'm happy when I make myself do things and I get out there. It's just can be difficult sometimes to do that and to get yourself to be outgoing and getting out there. And I'm not beyond doing stuff for myself. I've always had that ability. But it's because Vince liked being home alone too. He was not and that was never an issue because I was in some ways more social. I had more friends for sure. He, was but he had no problem with me going out and visiting my friends if I, But as during the illness, I pushed a lot of that stuff even aside, even more. So I have made efforts. Hasn't really been all that long. But most of the time I go places and I do things, I don't know what to say to people. I just like... I'd rather watch from the sidelines and see what's going on. Now that's always been me too. You know, go to the party, I'd be the person that found the cat or the dog. I'm sitting there petting them. Or the back porch where you can hide away in your party. Oh, it's okay. Now that I feel like I'm getting, it's really pushing this painting thing, and sometimes when you're trying to do little micro pushes, might like getting yourself to do micro steps to start doing new things. It's good to sort of focus on those until you can really get them incorporated into your everyday life. And I think that now that I've really got this one sort of, moving forward, I really need to start working on the yard, not thinking about the whole yard, because that is overwhelming. Because really, it's suffered from 3 years of neglect. And that is hard in a subtropical climate because it just takes over. So I'm just going to start in one little section and work my way out. Because if I think about everything, too much. So if I just sort of start with that one little section. The good thing is, we still got a lot of hot to go. We got the rest of August and September, which are two of the hottest months sometimes. And we will, after that, we'll get some cooler days in there. And when that happens, it will be easier to work in the yard than it is at present. Because right now we're at the hottest part of the year. It's like brutal out there. And between that and we get, these lot of rain showers. And, getting the timing to go out there and work in the yard. But when I do get out there and work in the yard, it actually, to me, is a very, I find it a positive thing. It sort of uplifts me. I like doing it. I like, seeing the results for sure. But I want to be able to go out and sit in the yard and not be looking around going, I need to take care of that. I want to sit out there and enjoy sitting out there. And so that's going to take a little effort, and that's okay. I know it's not going to happen overnight. But if I do, like I said, start doing like I'm doing now, where I go, okay, go out and do this every day. And it's not like I have been doing stuff, but even to barely maintain stuff here, you have to, you just have to, there's a lot of work. And so, unless you're on top of it or have someone working with you to do it, it is easily just too much to handle. So, you got to give yourself time and you got to push forward. So, I've done certain maintaining of mowing so we can function in our yard and we're not completely overtaken by nature. But there's a lot of overgrowth and just things that just need to really just be cut way back. And that's where I'll sort of start with a lot of that stuff, is just move forward and working on it. So I think that that's going to be my next thing that I add to my to-do list, is working on, and I'll do it just like I'm doing this. I'll go, okay, I'm going to work on this section, and then I'll get that section done to a certain point of done, and then I'll go, okay, now I'll work on this section, and I'm just going to keep moving forward till I get everything, because I want it to be peaceful. A yard should be a sanctuary, and right now it has very little bit, not very much sanctuary, but it's a lot of overgrowth. And it's just, I need to take care of that, and I have a couple things in the yard I need to get rid of and stuff like that. So it's all process. If I start listing everything, then I get overwhelmed. So I'm going to just think one thing. We go, okay, we got this little section right here, and we're going to deal with that, and then we'll go from there. Because not, it's going to feel like a damn avalanche on top of me. But I am looking forward to Halloween. So if I could get the yard to a certain extent done, I would like to decorate for Halloween. Which has been a long while since we've done that. And I'd like to have, set up so that we could do a little bonfire, and stuff like that. And do s'mores with the grandbabies. Because that's fun. And, I enjoy that, and so I think that's where I'm aiming towards. And so between now and when it gets time where we can sort of do that, I can pull it together and make that happen. And so that's what I, want to work on, is having that all done and ready to go, and then when it gets cooler, then I can really attack some of the bigger projects and stuff. But I'd like to get, my goal will be, so that we have a nice place to sort of hang out and do that. Because I prefer to be outside. But it's stressful because most of the time I'm just sitting there going, oh gosh. And then our dogs are anti-helpful when it comes to the yard, because they think pretty much anything that's out in the yard is a toy. And they are big and they can drag things around. And it is very easy for them to make things and make chaos. But they're my dogs, and I love them. And chaos is just part of it. I'm sitting here looking at the painting. I know I'm all over the place, but talk about the garden. But I'm sitting and looking at the painting, and sometimes when I choose colors for stuff, I look at it later, and I'm just like, damn, I'm digging those colors, and I'm digging those orange walls. It's just supposed to be the glow of the evening. And it makes me almost want to paint some walls orange, get that sort of rough looking. I find them appealing. Of course, it's the balance of that with the other colors around it and the night sky and all that. Bring it together, but I could use a little bit more color. A little anti-beige. Don't get me wrong, beige has its good points too. I'm a huge fan of sand, but in its place. But I like color. I like lots of color. I like rich, vibrant colors. And although most of the time you'll see me wearing black, so that's different. I always tell the girls that really is all the colors, because the color wheel, if you bring all the colors together, they make black. And white is actually the absence of color, opposite, of course, of the light spectrum, where, white is all the colors coming together, and black being the absence of color. So the yin and yang of those. So when I'm wearing black here, it's like all the colors coming together. It's a rainbow. Yes. Black is a rainbow. I can't help it. The black, it's the emo in me. It's the, post-punk rock Wendy who, I haven't escaped that bit of me growing up in the 70s and 80s. It's just inescapable sometimes. Um, I like black clothes. And I have to say that is not necessarily the best thing to wear in Florida. You know, but being that it absorbs heat so easily. My choice. That's okay. I can wear my black clothes. And it'll be okay. I have to say though, a lot of times when I go to wear color, it's not that I will, but sometimes when I go to wear color, it's kind of like when I cut my hair. Every time I cut my hair, the first thing I do is start growing my hair back. I regret it. And the same thing when I buy colorful clothes, I get them with the idea of, oh yeah, I'm going to wear this. And then they end up just sort of staying there. And I'll mostly just wear the black clothes. Every once in a while I'll find something that I really love. Some other clothes, like there was this red dress I used to really love, and I wish I had another one like that. And sometimes you just fall in love with certain articles of clothing. But usually with me, they're black. And that's okay. But who knows? People evolve. I could change. I don't think about the long hair thing. I guess if my hair was falling out, I mean, knock on wood for that, I do not want that to happen. I pretty much stick into the long hair. Every time, like I said, I've cut it. First thing I want to do is get it back. And I remember the first time that I got my hair cut. Other than maybe trimmed by my mom or something. First time I ever got it cut, I was the Dorothy Hamill cut. And I was in 3rd grade. And I came in, I was talking to my mom's hairdresser. I was a little girl. I was in, like I said, 3rd grade. And she's talking to me. And she's like, you sure you want to do that? You want to cut your hair? And I put my hair behind my ears, and she goes, you get the haircut, you're not going to be able to do that. You're not going to be able to put your hair behind your ears. And I got the Dorothy Hamill haircut, which I regretted, I have to say. And started growing it out immediately after that. But that was my first haircut. And since then, every subsequent haircut I've gotten, unless it was just a minor, just like a trim and a blowout, is pretty much, if I've gotten like a major haircut, as I want to grow it back out. And I don't know what possesses me to even cut it on those times, It's a whim. And I know hair grows back and blah, blah, blah. So it doesn't, really matter. But I kind of feel, lost without it. There was those Native American trackers. They worked for the military. And when they cut their hair for the military, they didn't feel like they tracked like they did when they had their hair. And I understand that, because it's almost like it's part of you. It's like an extension of your senses, is your hair. And Vince's hair the whole time when he was going through chemo, it sort of went back and forth on him losing it and growing it back. And it was, hair was always important to him too. And so, that was an extra stress put on him. But he was pretty good, because he'd cut his hair short every once in a while. But him like me, he would always sort of go back, and forth. But he went through phases where he kept his hair short for a long time. And then he'd go through phases where he'd start growing it out. There's always that awkward stage before he could get into a ponytail that he hated. Because then when he was doing stuff, it would go in his eyes. But he knew I liked when he'd grow his hair out too, so just like I know he liked my long hair. So I'm sure that added to it. But long hair in a lot of cultures, symbolizes, strength and spiritual connection and fertility and youth and there's all kinds of stories where people losing their hair, represents them, being vulnerable or weak, and so I think in some ways, I sort of get that feeling. And long hair, like I said, it's not just people nowadays think of it more feminine, but it's been long been both male and masculine and feminine. Like I was talking about, the Native Americans with their long hair, they think of it as an extension of their who they are, just part of their strength and their identity, and just part of their whole nervous system, and connects them to the earth, and they're not the only ones. It's the some people believe it's like almost like an antenna to spiritual energies, and I can sort of see that. And there's biblical lore as well, where when Samson, his source of his power was supposed to sort of come from the gift of God from this hair, and when he lost it, he became weak. So I think that it's obviously something that is in world culture, and there's lots of stories about people and, their long hair. And I definitely have no plans on getting rid of my long hair. I wouldn't mind if it actually got longer. It is harder the longer it gets to take care of, but that goes with the territory. When our oldest daughter, Minnesota, was 10 years old, she had really long hair, went past her rear end, and she wanted to donate it. She wanted to cut it, and so I took her to go get her hair cut and do all that, and it was. I think she had a little, parts of her that regret it, but I think that, ultimately she was not necessarily extremely happy with the haircut she got, but happy with sort of the change and just, the evolution of her hair. And I remember it took me a while to get used to her when she had cut her hair. And I remember holding my hand up to sort of block where her hair was cut off so I couldn't tell where it was cut, just because I was so used to her and her long blonde hair, and it was hard for me to get used to her with the short haircut. But she has long hair again now, so obviously it didn't stick. She's gone through phases where she's cut it shorter, but usually it goes back to long. And you know, I prefer that, but that's just how I roll. And it was nice that she donated her hair. She did all that. Her hair grows really fast. When she was being born, I remember the nurse saying, "She's got so much hair, we could braid it." And it started growing. She grew her hair pretty fast when she was little. And it still grows pretty fast. But all of the girls have a lot of hair. Some a little bit more than others. But her hair just had a head start. It just seemed to grow faster than everybody else's, which is good for her. And her hair was a nice mix between her dad's hair and my hair. Our hairs, we had a lot of similarities to our hair. Vince and I, just different colors, but there were definitely differences. And it changed, you know, hair evolves over time too. There were times it was curlier, and same with me, and times when it was straighter, and sometimes it's just the humidity, but sometimes it's just, I don't know, age, time, diet, who knows what the evolution. And when he had the chemo, and he lost his hair, and when it came back like extra curly. And I heard a thing about chemo curls, and he's had time where his hair was really curly, right? But it had been a long minute, where it was just sort of slightly, you know. And like I said, it went through phases, and the shorter it was, it would get curlier. But his was just extra curly when it came back from chemo. And his lashes got really super long too. That was really bizarre after chemo, like how his lashes just like really grew long, so much so that like I can't tell you how many nurses were like, "Oh my gosh, your lashes," because they just got really long, like camel lashes. I don't know if you've ever seen camel lashes, which I think they have them to keep the sand out of their eyes. But Vince's lashes got super long, just crazy long, after chemo. It's things that you don't even think about, just bizarre effects from stuff. And that was one of them, was extra long lashes. And I had never heard of that one before. Chemo curls I had actually heard about, but I had not heard about the lashes, and I don't even know if I've heard it about anybody else, but it happened. That's all I can say. You know, it was a thing. It really happened. Now, on this painting that I'm working on, I missed the last half hour of the painting, because I'm running out of space on my phone where I have it worked out now. But like I said, I'm dealing with I don't want to buy things and stuff like that. I have a lot of stuff, and I'm not trying to spend money on this. I'm just trying to work with what I have and you know, get the stuff out here. So I know I could have better pictures and better filming and all that kind of stuff, and we'll see with time how that goes. But I'm working with what I have, and right now this is what I have. So I'm you know, doing these, but I've missed part of the end, and what you're not going to see being created is here in a little while. You know, I'm adding the stuff, but I'll be putting the smoke from the cigarettes into the air, and you know, have it sort of swirl around and around where the moon and stuff like that. And I'm not actually sure how much they got. I think the video goes to where it shows me starting to paint the smoke at least, but it does not show to where I end. But the last thing I put in there is a lunar moth in the smoke. And at first I thought about doing like a small one sort of out the window, but then I just made it large and up in sort of the corner. And the reason I did that was lunar moths are, in folklore, symbolize sort of rebirth, transformation, good luck, and a connection to the spirit world. And that is really the biggest one, is that one, that sort of connection to the spirit world. And the colors and stuff that I've sort of used in Vince's shirt throughout the series have similarities. You know, it's a little bit more on the blue side, but, you know, highlights of that sort of, and in the smoke for sure. And I'm just, it's sort of rising from that. And in the picture, my eyes are shut. I'm sitting there and we're clinking our beers together, and he's looking at me, and his eyes are open, and I'm sort of looking straight away, and I almost feel like, you know, that's why I said straight into a dream. So, you know, is he there? Is he not? Is sort of the thing, even though he's sitting there right next to me. He's not sitting there right next to me in reality here. But he is. So that connection, the Luna Moth, is the connection to sort of the spirit world, to the spirit. And that's, you know, the part of this picture, like I said, that you won't see that done because the camera shut off and I didn't realize it wasn't filming. And I you know, and all these paintings are sort of my Luna Moth. They're my connection. They're my bond. They're my link to Vincent. And I want to, you know, hold on to that and sort of show that in these images. And here I am, I'm starting to do the smoke on and I bring the smoke and I link the smoke from his cigarette and my cigarette together, and I have them mingle in with each other. I just let it grow up from base and let it swirl across. And I've said it in other videos, but my husband and I, we quit smoking. It'll be 17 years. It's 17 for me now. I quit in January, 17 years ago. It would have been. But my husband had quit the 28th of this month, which was when he quit smoking and drinking. And we spent, you know, but when we were first together for a lot of years, for the first, you know, 10 years of our marriage, we were smokers for sure. I quit when I was pregnant, but I would always go back. It was just one of those things I had trouble, you know, getting rid of. And some of it was, I felt like it was I used it for so much with cigarettes. It was, you know, driving a car, you smoke a cigarette. You take a break, you smoke a cigarette. Painting a painting, one of the things I would do is stop, smoke a cigarette, look at the painting, evaluate things, step back, you know. And it was pretty much everything. I was smoking a cigarette. So, it was just very much part of me, and I really thought that I would never quit. I was definitely the type of person that thought that I would smoke forever. that I'd be 90 years old and still smoking cigarettes. I had a grandmother that smoked until her 90s. Now, she went through a brief time where she quit, and then she smoked again. And then I think at the end she wasn't smoking because she was in a place being taken care of. So she wasn't smoking there till the end, you know. But it was a different... I'm happy I quit. But I definitely sort of fought against it for a long time. And I have to say, money was a lot. Health was a part of it, but money was a lot of it, because it was starting to add up. It was starting to be a pretty penny to keep up that habit of smoking cigarettes. And I for sure was old school cigarettes, not vape. And I used to even, there was a time where I rolled our own cigarettes for us, and I would roll them for my husband before he went to work. And because it was cheaper to buy the tobacco like that. And then a lot of times I would just bring the can along with me and roll it wherever I was, because that was just easier thing to do. Plus, the shock factor was always enjoyable when you'd sit there and start rolling something up in public, and they'd be like, what is she doing? And this, of course, was back in the day when you could smoke in restaurants and other various places that you would not be allowed to smoke now, of course. But we definitely enjoyed smoking there when we were allowed to. But now, it's taboo to smoke cigarettes. But in some ways, okay, I almost found smoking sort of not only meditative and sort of this time to I don't know, I almost thought of it as a way to send messages to people in the smoke. When I was smoking, I could sit there and you think things and positive thoughts of sending things to people, and like prayers and smoke. So you just got to think about sending it on the wind now, not in the smoke. It was my own personal smoke signals, is what it was, to send out to the world on the smoke from a Marlboro Red or a Camel. That's generally the two. If I wasn't smoking, rolling my own from drum tobacco, I would get either Camels or Marlboro Reds. When I was younger, it used to be Marlboro Lights. And then before that, because I used to steal them from my grandmother. Oh gosh, I just forgot the name of them. We were just talking about that not that long ago, but I used to steal them from my grandmother. It was easy. I'd just take a couple, and she smoked menthol. Yuck. Vince smoked menthol too. So, some people like menthol. I was not one of them. That does not mean that if I was smoking, that I wouldn't have smoked a menthol if that was the only thing available. Because that's just, how I roll. But I am glad I quit, ultimately. And I pretty much have not smoked any cigarettes since I quit. I think like maybe 2 or 3 times, if I was out somewhere and was having a few drinks with someone, I might have a couple drags off of a cigarette. But even that was more in the early when I first, and that would be, it never made it so I would go out and buy some. In fact, I kept like my last pack. I put them in a Ziploc bag and had them in the freezer. And I remember my daughter found them and she's like, "What? Why are these cigarettes in the freezer?" And I was like, "I don't know, it helps me quit. If they're just sitting there in case I need a cigarette, it's there." And those were there for a long time before I finally went, okay, these need to go. They were probably in there 10 years. Um, Sitting there, just in case I needed that magical cigarette to smoke. Um, but I didn't. They sat there. I did not smoke them. And eventually they were thrown away. But I definitely had a love for smoking. And it probably was, if it was cheaper and not bad for you, I'd probably still be smoking. Because that's just how I roll. But that's okay. That is okay. It's good to change things up and strive to be better. So that's what I think. But I did like smoking. And painting these things, it's kind of like when you see a movie and a bunch of people are smoking, I sit there and go, yeah, loved smoking. It was awesome. That doesn't mean that I'm going to go pick up a pack of cigarettes. But it does. You sit there and just go, yeah, love that. So I can't say I completely, was converted away from cigarettes. Ultimately, there's just something about me that was a smoker. And I'd like to say I completely left. But I think Vince was the same way. He said when he quit drinking, when he did that whole thing where he quit drinking and smoking and did everything sort of cold turkey, he did have some medication for the first couple of weeks to do with the he was dealing with stuff with his heart and stuff like that, but it was also helping withdrawals from the alcohol. And he did the patch briefly with the cigarettes for like a couple of weeks, but he stopped that too because it was like too much money. Ultimately, when it came to doing anything to change something, he didn't want to spend the money. He was just going to do it on his own. But he said quitting smoking for him was much harder than the quitting drinking, which he was surprised about. Figured the drinking thing would be harder. But once he got over the initial part where he got over and they were able to take away the addiction part where your body is saying you have to drink, it was a lot easier for him. And he definitely was the type of person that he, felt that he had, he didn't want people to not smoke and drink around him because he wasn't smoking and drinking. He said if he didn't, if that was going to make him smoke and drink, then, he hadn't truly quit. So he couldn't, it was his own thing. It was in his own pride, having someone around him smoking and drinking wasn't going to make him stop doing what he was doing. And he did it. He did a good job. And I was, it's inspirational that he was able to do that. Because that is not an easy thing. It's hard, and I know a lot of people feel that to change and make yourself better and work and make ourselves healthy and stuff like that. And that's really where I need to start doing, is getting myself healthy, because I get pretty sedentary sitting there taking care of my husband, and I always struggle with my weight. Love food, it's delicious, and love to cook and all that kind of stuff, so it's just real easy to do that. So another project to work on, I want to be around for these grandbabies and all that kind of stuff. I gotta take care of myself. And no one's gonna do it for me. It's not gonna magically happen. And I'm not gonna sit there and take a pill for it either. Because I don't know, 20 years from now, all these people who are sitting here giving themselves shots to get skinny, I'm just waiting to see what else it's doing to their freaking body. And that's a little terrifying. But I guess we'll see in 20 years or so how it's affected people. That's of course assuming that some alien race doesn't come in here and decide to harvest us for lunch ourselves during that time. But we will see. But yeah, I'm coming towards the end here of the video being on. But I'm still working on the smoke. And so I'm pretty sure that I did not get me painting the moth in here at all, because I am really at the end of the video here. Well, I mean, it has like another minute left, but I don't think that I have that part in here, which is a shame. But I'll try to keep on top of it so that I don't miss that stuff. But I missed 2 sections of this. That before I started, I forgot to push record. And thank goodness I captured that a little shortly later. And then I could have missed the whole thing. And then and then it stopped on the other. So that's okay. We will we learn as we go along here. But I hope everybody has, really beautiful evening. And if you made it all the way through listening to you, bless you for putting up with me. But if you put me on mute and aren't listening to me at all right now, just watching, just have me on my background, I appreciate it. So thank you for your time and coming to listen to me here. And I'll be putting out something tomorrow, but it will be a new series because this one will be at its end. And we'll see where we go from that. You guys take care. Bye-bye.